Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us on the training for websites for floodplain management success. We're going to just go over a little bit of how to use Zoom to start with. Not sure how familiar with everybody is at this point, but I think most people have used it by now. But some useful tools are the chat function in your bottom list of tools. And then if you want to share your video or mute yourself, that's in the left-hand corner on the bottom. You will be muted during the presentation. For the most part, that's your personal muting, like you can mute and unmute yourself. And but if there's background noise, Cheyenne or Tara will likely mute you. And if we have time for questions, we'll try to make sure that you get unmuted at that time. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat as we go or raise your hand. And we'll pause for questions at various points. If you want to share your video, please do. I'm not going to leave mine on the whole time, but at least through introductions I will. And then if you have technical difficulties, like I said, Cheyenne or Tara who to reach out to. And we have already started recording the webinar. Okay, so I'd like to start with some introductions. Can everybody that's on from KDA introduce themselves at this time?
Yeah, hey, good morning. My name is Tara Lansreth. I work with Joanna at KDA as the floodplain mapping coordinator.
Hello, I'm Bill Pace. I work with Tara and Joanna on the floodplain mapping team.
Steve
Hello,
Samuelson.
I'm Cheyenne. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, Cheyenne, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm Cheyenne Suningle. I work with Steve on the regulatory side.
All right, and y'all heard me already. I'm Steve Samuelson.
All right. And we have somebody with FEMA. Don, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, this is Don Masterson. I'm the floodplain specialist for Kansas City. I work with you guys as long as Steve and Cheyenne.
Okay. And how about from the different communities or engineering firms? I think we have a couple of those too. And if you prefer to just type in the chat, that's fine too. But you would have to unmute yourself to talk. Okay. Hi, Kelly Dixon. How are you doing? I guess, let's see. And hi, John from St. Charles. This will have a focus on Kansas, but we will discuss some of the FEMA products or offerings too. Could we go ahead and launch the poll? And I'll just kind of talk through it. We have one poll that just kind of gauges whether or not you've used these tools before. And if you could fill it out, that'd be great. As we go through, we're going to talk about our Kansas BFE request portal and project web maps and websites we offer, our effective floodplain viewer, and then the FEMA MSC, and then FEMA web map services. And at the end, I'll do demonstrations of basically as much as we can get through. We'll start with the Kansas sites and then possibly get into the FEMA websites as well. Okay. All right, I think that's probably good on the polling. Okay, so we have some mixture of use on all of the sites. So thank you for filling that out. And we'll just kind of give a brief overview of each of them. If you have questions to follow up on, you're welcome to ask them now, or we can follow up later with you. Thanks. So to start, I want to go over the BFE portal. It's kind of a unique site to our program. And I don't know, my slides aren't. There we go. It began design in September 2016, and we used the Kansas Data Access and Support Center, who host it and run it for us, and they continue to do that and provide maintenance. They host all the grid data that is the basis of it. And then it launched in 2017. So it took about a year to create. It is a website for requesting BFEs in Zone A or unmapped areas. The usefulness of it gives us the ability to track the requests, and it automatically retrieves BFEs where grids are available of water surface elevation grids. The lowest adjacent grade from the statewide LiDAR service, and depth values, which is just a subtraction of the two values. And KDA-DWR staff reviews and approves these. That is mostly Bill Pace, who's on the line. So if you have questions about it, you'll mostly be reaching out to him. We also accept model requests through here, and I usually handle those.
One thing to mention, Joanna, is you do have to register for the portal to use it.
Yeah.
And then it will email you a password, and you can't customize your password. So hang on to that email with that password, so that way you have it handy.
That's a good point. Thank you. So after you have your login and you want to put a request in, you go to the map tab, and it looks like this to start. So this is all the area that we currently have data available or are working on getting the data available. And pretty soon all this area is going to be shaded into as in development, not available in development. So we're very close to having statewide data, although very close means like in a couple of years, but it's on the map, it's coming. So that's good that's good for its use for anywhere. You would just use this page to verify the status of the BFE data, and then click on the map to obtain LiDAR elevations. So as you point and click, it'll come up with a LiDAR value on the side pane. It's red there. It's not quite so big as that. That's blown up value there. And then when you want to request a BFE, you zoom into your address or area of interest by using the search. You can either search by address or section, township, and range to locate your property. And then click on the area of interest polygon to start drawing, and trace the boundary of the structure using the aerial imagery as a guide, and double click when finished. And so just a note, if you have a structure that you're requesting on, try to get it as close to the structure footprint as possible, rather than some kind of like generalized polygon of the structure, because it's going to give it's going to give values directly related to that polygon. So it's going to pull higher or lower values if you make that much bigger polygon. Once you're done with creating the polygon, double click to finish, as it says, and then it'll pull up a dialog box where you enter your address and then the purpose that you want the BFE or perhaps a model request. So these are your options here. You can do a LOMA application or elevation certificate, or sometimes people just want LiDAR elevations only.
Hey everybody, I'm not sure what happened there, but I think I know I got booted off. It looks like we still don't have Joanna back. So let's give her a minute and see if she can reconnect.
Yeah, I think we all got kicked out there with mine
Okay.
out as well.
Everybody, Joanna was talking about the BFE portal before we had the disruption. And I would urge all the floodplain managers here to sign up for the BFE portal website if you haven't already. It's really handy to be able to go into it and check LiDAR, among other things, like if you have a question, and that way you'll already have your password all worked out.
Okay, I just got a message from Joanna that she's trying to reconnect. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the presentation and see if I can share that and try to pick up where she left off, and hopefully she'll be able to rejoin us. Again, we are recording this, so hopefully despite the interruptions, it's still recording. We can make that available. Oh, I see Joanna's name.
Hi.
Hi. I was getting ready to share the presentation, but if you're back on and it will work for you, then that would be great. We're not sure what happened.
It's on my end, so if you want to share the presentation, it might not be bad, because
Okay.
I'm not very convinced that I'm going to be successful in staying online. I'm
Okay.
very sorry for, I hope I disconnected my VPN, and that might have been part of my problem. So
Okay, give me just 1 second here.
I don't know where I left off. Because I don't know where you guys stopped hearing me.
Give me 1 second here and let me. Okay, so you're probably a little further than this. Can everybody see that screen okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I
Thank
think
you.
were, no problem. And again, apologies to everybody for the interruption here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I believe you were on well, I think I got kicked off about here, but I don't know if you've gotten a little further, but this is approximately where I remember it anyway.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so just to back up, the BFE portal, here's a step-by-step. You can search for your address and then zoom into your area of interest, and to click to start drawing, you need to select that area of interest and trace the area you're interested in and try to be as accurate as possible. And then when done, you double click and a dialog box will come up. So when the dialog box comes up, it gives the options for why you might want what request you're making, and including the model request there at the bottom.
And I will note that sometimes it can take a little while for that dialog box to pop up. So, you know, be patient. We're working on ways with DAS to improve that. But if you do have an issue, you can always reach out to us and we can help you draw that in if you're having problems with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was testing it out this morning. It was taking a little bit of time, and we'll see how it does when we demo if we get that far. Yeah, so there's two different views when you for this site. We at KDA have this admin view, and it gives us the grids that are up there, the BFE value and the depth value. And then the user view does not include the BFE value or the depth, partly and primarily due to the fact that there's multiple sources for BFE data at this time for many areas in the state. So we just want to make sure that when we provide that BFE, we're providing the correct one.
Yes, and that's really the great thing about using the portal is since there are different sources sometimes for these Zone A floodplains, if you make the request through our site, you're sure to get what is that best available data. So just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, thank you. And just some benefits of it, as I mentioned, that all the requests are sitting in one place, so they're not lost within our emails. We know exactly where you're talking about, and we don't have to go searching for it. And we keep all the spatial records, so we can kind of see where there's heat maps. So it tells us where either there's development that there's need for consideration on whether the maps are accurate, or it might just tell us where existing structures are showing where the maps may not be accurate because they're based off old data. We can filter the request by type of request, so like the model requests or LiDAR only requests. We can also filter by the status of it. So if it's pending, it means it hasn't been reviewed yet or hasn't been finalized at least. And then we can see BFE requests that we were not able to fulfill, or BFE requests that were approved. All those options are available for filtering. We have the potential for expansion, future improvement. We have some ideas in the works going forward. And then for users, it's a central location to make requests. As I mentioned, Bill, he typically fulfills the requests, but Tara and I are able to. It kind of depends on, you know, who's available, who has the time to do it. So that way it just goes to who has the most time for it. And for the end user, it gives you an idea of your chances of attaining a LOMA before you spend money on a surveyor. And it produces an official letter stating the BFE and the approximate lowest adjacent grade, which you can use those letters in a LOMA application, and many people do. The LOMA reviewers are fairly familiar with seeing them at this point. Here's a sample letter that gets produced when we approve a BFE. I took out the address here. But this is where the address goes. And it lists the BFE and the lowest adjacent grade, and then discusses potential of like maybe getting a preferred risk policy if the LOMA is approved. And we do have different sample form letters, but they all have similar aspects in terms of they at least list this information in them. And they also have a map at the bottom and include our signature. And then this is more of a future enhancement, but something that can be created at this time outside of it that we have done some for. These are for the LiDAR-based LOMA requests. Essentially, if the LiDAR shows that the structure is 2 feet or more above the BFE, we can create a map that shows that information, and it can be used for a LOMA application and does not require a survey or elevation certificate. And we've had at least one LOMA go through this process and a couple other at least in the works. So one has been approved and others I think should be approved. So that's just another tool that we hope to have integrated into the BFE portal, but at this time we can also just create them based off the information provided from the BFE portal. These maps contain contours, typically 2 feet. Sometimes if it's a small enough area, we might generate them at a 1 foot contour. Includes LiDAR accuracy, so based off the metadata, BFE information and the address of the request, flood source, and the current effective floodplain.
Joanna, can you, so how far above, or how, you know, does the LiDAR have to show above that base flood elevation to qualify for one of these LiDAR-based LOMAs?
We tend to think 2 feet to be safe, but in some cases 1 foot might be acceptable if it's clearly above at 1 foot, but 2 feet kind of triggers the potential for this type of request, LOMA.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, now I want to talk about some of our project websites and web maps. So for each project we have a web page. Here's the footprint of the current projects ongoing. As you can see, we have projects in just about every part of the state. The ones in this crisscross purple, Upper Smoky Hill and Upper Solomon Saline, they are planned for FY20, so they haven't kicked off yet. We don't have project pages for them. But for all the others, we do have project pages for. The FY19 ones that are just kind of a darker gray, we don't really have data for them yet, but they're in progress at least. At varying stages. There have been some, as we go west, we've encountered some difficulties with that have, I don't know, Tara, if you want to talk about that at all, but
so out west. We're doing some, some pilot projects to determine what the best approach is for the hydrology. Because as we know, there's been a lot of groundwater usage and declines there, and some of the stream flow has been greatly reduced and impacted based on that. So we have a pilot project in Dodge City, and then also up here in the Upper Republican watershed, we're kicking one off. And so these projects are a little bit on hold right now, pending the results of those studies. We just want to make sure that we get the modeling right before we start producing that on a larger scale.
Yeah. So the ones further out east are much further along because they didn't have those same issues. But we're working on getting it statewide, though, as you can see, I think, from this map. And so the space level engineering is what many of these projects are under, and that is something that we can use as best available data when there's, especially where there's no maps in existence, or paper maps.
And it would be for the Zone A floodplains where we can use that as best available data. And we do hope to have results from the hydrology studies out west by the end of this year. So, and then we should pick up those projects here out west, hopefully by the beginning of next year. But again, all of these are much further along as you head towards the east. And so, we do have those project web pages, as Joanna mentioned, and viewers for each one where you can find that information. And of course, you can make the request for those base flood elevations through that BFE portal using that data. So anyway, I will be quiet and I'll advance the slide for you, Joanna.
Thank you. And you do not need to be quiet. You're adding helpful information, I think. So okay, here's our mapping projects page. This is the list of all the projects. Those ones that we don't have data yet, they're kind of more of a placeholder. There's like a little bit of description in there, and we'll add to them as we have like kickoff meetings and stuff like that. And then this pop out for Ellis County is kind of your typical look of one of the project pages. They will vary based on type of project, but we usually have like a scoping map or like a map that shows where the location is. And we tend to keep like the scoping maps, the presentations, handouts and maybe a timeline and link to that web map. That's usually the top link in there, so it's easy to get to. Here's an example of one of the project web maps. This is for an area that has current digital floodplains. So we have on top this changes since last firm layer. It's got, so it shows the difference between the effective and the preliminary maps. In areas that we don't have effective digital maps, we have rectified firms if those are available in the web map. So you can still see the changes. Or we just show the new data if that's not even available. We include the BFE information on the web map, and then they're typically comment enabled, so you can leave comments if you think an area needs looked at further, or if you just have some sort of question, or if you know of development that's going to occur there or recently did that may affect the flood map. We use these web maps throughout the life of the project. We start off in scoping, and we use them for public open houses and all of our meetings with the communities. And they're updated as the data is updated. So the Kansas Effective Floodplain Viewer is similar in that it's used the same format, but it just shows the effective floodplain data that is in digital format. So those areas that have paper maps are not included in this. We do show the special flood hazard area and BFE information. We include the shaded zone X as a layer that you can turn on and off. And it includes the LOMAR areas, like there's a polygon that shows where there's LOMARs. And it's updated periodically as new data becomes available. I think it was last updated in the springtime, in the May, and it says at the top when it was updated, and also gives links to the mapping project page or the FEMA MSC, so in case it doesn't have all the information you need. Includes the ability to measure print maps, search by address and PLSS, and save and share your current view. So if you zoom into an area and you turn on layers that you wanted to show, turn off layers that you don't want to, you can save that and share that current view. Okay, and then for FEMA websites, some of this is going to be kind of repetitive to what we already have, but I thought it was useful to show what is available from FEMA. So the FEMA Map Service Center, if you haven't used it before, is where you go to download data. You can download effective data, you can download preliminary data, and then there's pending data, and that's when it's past LFD but not quite effective yet. So that'll sit in the pending data location there. Typically, you can find your firm panels up there, and FIS reports and letters of map changes. It also has the GIS files for the National Flood Hazard Layer or your preliminary maps. You can get to where you need by searching by address or searching for all products. So like if you just want to download your whole county's information, you might go that direction. And that's wherever data is available across the nation.
Yeah, and I point out, this is highlighted here, that latest letter of map revision effective date. So, sometimes if there is a letter of map revision in your community, it will change, of course, it'll change the floodplain. And so that's something you want to pay attention to. And if you haven't downloaded it in a while, you might want to just double check and make sure you've got the latest version of the floodplain map, just in case there's been a LOMAR.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you. And that's something we use to just make sure our Kansas Effective Floodplain Viewer is up to date. Like, when was the last update? And if it's after when we last updated our web map, we need to make an update to our Floodplain Viewer. So FEMA also has a viewer for their National Flood Hazard Layer. It uses symbology that is you see on the firm, and you can produce a firmet from it. You can also search by address. It has a search bar and turn layers on and off. It has the same data as our effective viewer. We show it a little differently. We use a little bit different symbology, and we make some layers, like the shaded zone X, something you can turn on and off. But it's essentially the same thing. Our viewer, because it's not nationwide, can sometimes run maybe a little faster, but it kind of depends on what our server's doing also. So you can use either. And then this is a new service. This is, I think, maybe launched last year or possibly the year before. But FEMA now does a changes viewer that they create this auto-produced changes map. And this is what it looks like. I did have to turn off a bunch of layers just to be able to kind of see the changes, but you can also view preliminary data through this viewer. In some parts of the nation, you might be able to view draft changes here before it's preliminary, but that won't be the case in Kansas, I don't believe. And then, yeah.
This is similar to our changes since last form, except for we use a different color scheme. And I think I prefer our color scheme just to this, I guess, because I like that the red means that there's newly added. I think here, I didn't even have to look to see what that is.
Yeah. I think
the yellowish color.
Yeah, yellow is increased and
purple. So this is similar to what we show, but we just use a different color scheme that is just, the red and the yellow and the green, which we feel personally is just a little bit easier to understand as far as the changes. But this is available, and that's why I think Joanna wanted to mention it, that FEMA has this as well.
Yeah, and typically we're focusing on ours on the special flood hazard area changes. Sometimes if there's floodway changes, we'll show that sometimes too in a different way, but this is all one layer that you can turn on or off. Whereas if we usually just have the one that's special flood hazard area, or if we have other ones, there are multiple layers to turn on and off. So again, kind of like in the effective floodplain viewers, you can kind of turn off the shaded zone X and the special flood hazard area separately. Whereas in the FEMA viewers, it's on or off, and you don't have the different options. So that was another difference, I think.
Yeah, so we confusion if we tried to have that, like the shaded zone X layer on or the 500 layer on. Sometimes people would see that and they would think they're in the floodplain and need insurance, and so it caused some confusion. So that's why we decided to show it only by clicking it on and not have it on by default. So.
Yeah, and that's just the product of us being able to tailor our websites and web maps to meet the needs of, and FEMA needing to create something that meets the needs of everybody.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to demonstrations. I'm going to start with the BFE portal. So I'll try and share my screen.
And I do think, Joanna, you did have on the last slide, and we will send out this presentation, and I think you may have before the meeting. We'll also send out the recording, but I think you had all of these links available here so that people can access these sites. So I just thought I'd share that real quick before you move into the demo.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, I'm going to turn off my email again. Okay. So here's when you go to the BFE portal, I'm going to log in as a user so you can see how that looks there. But you would just register for an account here if you don't have one already. And reset your password if you need to, if you did not save that password, and contact information. So as a viewer, this is what it looks like. And I guess if I pause, if anybody has questions about any of the content of the presentation, feel free to speak up now, or if was there any questions in the chat? I meant to ask that.
I haven't seen any questions in the chat other than just, making sure that the recording is sent out after the meeting, which we will do.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think my chat is only through from when I last logged in, so couldn't see anything if anything was put in before, but just thought I'd check on that.
But yes, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or ask them at any time. So, and I'm sure we'll pause here again for questions as well.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like when you first log in. it gives a little bit of instruction. So like we recommend you trying to draw tightly around your structure rather than kind of something like that just goes all over the place in the general area. To make a request, you click on the map tab. And then if you want to, I'll just search for my address. Note that the search is not just in Kansas, it goes, you know, nationwide.
So this is
in the floodplain. Yeah, that's right. Probably should have picked someplace that was, but okay. So like out here in a zone A area, if I wanted to like draw a request here, I just click on this area of interest polygon here, and then draw polygon, and then you fill out the address, test, and it bring up the elevation certificate, or you could choose any of these other options. And then if you have some note like wanting to see if Eloma is possible, or you know, building something, building a house, building a shop, or something like that, you can put that there, and then you click save to save the polygon, and then it gives this little dialog box that was
definitely
submitted.
Want to know if it's new construction, because if there are multiple data sources, we will always use the most restrictive one for that, because we would hate to have somebody build something too low. So that's always a good thing to note in there.
Yes, yeah. And I just thought there are some other layers that if you're needing to look at, like the streamline to see where it goes. We do have address points in here too, and they might take a little bit to draw. Yeah, these are from the NG911 layer. So just a few other options, township and range, you can turn those on. And here's how you can search for township and range. So if I wanted to search for this one right here, I just put it in 10, I get the right place? Nope, I said I did it backwards. Now it's just changing on me. I can't remember where I was at. Anyways. I'm sure you all know township and range better than I do.
One thing to note as far as the symbology on there, can you zoom out a little bit to?
Yeah.
So anything in that blue is where it's a zone A where you can make a request. If you see where you're getting into the cross-hatched area, like in town there, that if you notice on the symbology, it says it's a detailed study area, and that's where you'll need to consult the flood insurance study and use the flood profile, and we can assist with that if needed, but just I wanted to make that distinction because sometimes we will get requests in that detailed study area, and just a reminder again that the intention of the portal is really just for those zone A's, which are in that blue color there.
Yeah. And it does say over here in the symbology, it does say, please consult the FIS for that detailed study area. So we try to remind you that way.
Yes, sometimes I think it's hard to, I think it can be a little hard to see that. So I just
it's smaller text. We also have measurement tools if you want to kind of see how far you are from the floodplain or how far in the floodplain you are or something like that. The request history, if you want to see like where your request is at, you can go in here and get, and it's just pending. I think once it's approved, it says approved on there, but
And normally you're able to see what that lowest adjacent grade was by that LiDAR min value, but there's been an issue with that functioning correctly, is that right?
that is true. So it works in the map, so it shows you as you're clicking around, but it's not pulling it into this table at the moment.
Okay, and we are working to fix that, but normally you'd be able to go in there ahead of time and be able to see what that lowest adjacent grade is based on the LiDAR, of course, so it's approximate, but you'd be able to get an idea of that ahead of time as well. And then it will populate into the letter, of course, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so if I just clicked on the link of the map object ID to get back to this one, and it's showing as I click around the LiDAR value. So you can click around and find it, but it'd be good to know what that lowest adjacent grade for any any point touching the polygon, which is what that table should provide. And then here's where you would update like any of your personal information if you need to. Okay. And then there's this help tab that brings up this quick guide for the BFE portal. And we send this out to people ahead of time if we're trying to give them, instructions on how to use it too. So it's a pretty well utilized guide that we try to keep updated. Okay.
I'm curious to know how people have used it. Maybe you could use the yes or no button on your participant list and let us know if you've used this before.
Used the
BFE portal? Yeah, I think some people on here probably have.
You and I have.
Yay.
Yeah.
And if you aren't sure where those buttons are, it's just on your participants. If you can pop up that window, then you should have the option to click yes or no.
Yeah. Kenny, I was going to say, I know you've used it before.
Yeah, Ken's used it too. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and log into my my account just to admin view. We have more options. We can look back at letters that have been approved in the past and click on one, and then it brings up in the PDF. The admin view is what we use the most. So if I were to look at this test or want to do something with it, I would highlight it and it tells me which record has been highlighted, and then it gives this letter text. And normally, like Tara was saying, that LiDAR value and the BFE value would populate, but we're having some issues with that at the moment. But it does include like the current effective date of the map and locations to put that. So if I were just to say like it was like 1,000 and the BFE is 1,000 point. I could save that, and I think it might populate the and then we click the view PDF when we're when we think it's ready, and it pops up the PDF.
Yeah,
that takes a while too. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna wait for that. Yeah. And then when we're done, we can email the user and stuff. Just thought I'd give you a preview of that. Okay, so the Kansas Floodplain Effective Viewer, I'm going to switch over to that. Do you have any questions about the BFE portal? Okay.
Bill, since you primarily manage that portal, do you have any other things you wanted to say or any tips for use or anything?
The only thing I could think of is, let's say you're looking to build a new structure on a piece of parcel, it's better for me to have like a smaller polygon, at least in the approximate area that you're looking to build a structure at, so that I can give an accurate BFE for that piece of ground. If you draw just the polygon for the entire parcel, I will give you the highest BFE for that entire parcel, not just where you're planning on building your structure at. So if you're looking at where a possible structure is located at, try to be as exact as possible whenever you're trying to draw the polygon to where the building will be located at.
That's really good advice, Bill. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yes, thank you. So on the effective floodplain viewer, I just zoomed into Topeka. You can change to a satellite view so you can see how houses are affected. One layer that is turned on automatically is our NG911 layer. It has address points when you zoom in and road center lines. At this view, I might just turn it off, so clean it up some. But as you zoom in, you can see there's BFEs in cross sections, and these are your lettered cross sections. We also have unlettered mapped cross sections. So if they're shown on the firm panel, they are turned on automatically here. In some cases, we have unmapped cross sections also, and we just note that the backwater might not be applied in those locations. And we also have base flood approximate elevations that are turned on automatically. So the only time you might want these unmapped cross sections is where we don't have these base flood approximate elevations. So this kind of should be similar to that. It's just there's some places where we may not have this, but we do have the unmapped cross sections. You can turn on your HUC watersheds and your firm panels. These are not turned on automatically, but the firm panel will say the panel number and the effective date. And advisory floodplains are the shaded zone X. So the 500 year, the orange ones, and then the hatched ones are where there's X protected by levee areas. We also have LiDAR hill shade in here. So you can see what the LiDAR looks like. You can't really get like point and click information, but it can give you an idea of the grade for it. It does take a little longer for it to load, and it's a service that we don't provide. It's through, we pull in services from DAS for the LiDAR hill shade and the NG911. You can search by township and range again. It tells you how to search for it here. That's the LiDAR hill shade. So you can have that on and then have your floodplains on top of it. You can kind of see how that like contours with it or doesn't in some cases, or it's not LiDAR based. And then if you kind of wanted to just draw something and print your map, like draw potential site, you can use that. Have measurement tools and the print function. Whatever layers you have turned on at the current view, you just title your map how you want, your format that you want, and then the size of the paper that you want, and click print. And then it'll, when it's done, it'll pop up with a link to click. And so then there's, you can directions and Google Street View. This is kind of like a doesn't always work option. It's like a beta version, I think. And then the save share current map. So here's the way the PDF map was created. So it just shows the layers that were turned on, and then a scale and a map date. Okay, I can't see my tabs. Sorry. Okay, so here's our web mapping projects. I'm just going to click on the Neosho Headwaters because it's got multiple types of options in it. So we have three different counties in the middle of an update. And if I click on this Lyon and Morris County Web Review map, you can kind of see both ways the data is shown depending on what's available. So in Lyon County, we have the changes since last firm, and then in Morris County, we don't, and we only have paper maps available in the communities. You can also turn on that NG911 layer. It's not automatically turned on. And we do have that effective floodplain viewer data pulled in also. So if you just want to see, compare in this area. So if you wanted to turn off the changes since last firm and turn on the floodplain and then turn on the new floodplain, you could kind of look at it that way also. If you don't like the red, yellow, green colors, maybe. No, on any of these web maps, the folder is something that you click on to expand, and it gives more options for turning on data. If I search for Council Grove, I can show you what the rectified firms look like. So that it has a folder. You have to turn on the whole layer and then turn on Council Grove, and it will show what the current effective floodplains look like in shading. And just like in the effective viewer, you can turn on this draft advisory floodplains, which shows where the 500-year floodplains are. And depending on the web map, we might have the BFE lines on already, or we might have them turned off. It just depends on how maybe busy they are and how ease of use. In this one, we didn't have them turned on. Okay, and again, we have some different tools. Editors where you can actually leave a comment. And then there's measurement and print and draw and Google Street View. Does anybody have any questions about any of the web maps or the project map page? I don't think I'm going to get into the FEMA web maps, but I will show you the site to get to them from, because I only included one link for them. If you go to this flood map products, you can get to the MSC through this link, or you can just type FEMA MSC and get to it. If you scroll down, there is a preliminary flood hazard data viewer. This is how you can get to the changes map. And then, or no, that's not how you get to that one. I might have to send that link out too, because I thought that was the right link. But the National Flood Hazard, yeah, so just the changes viewer. And then the National Flood Hazard Layer Viewer. So, and again, you can turn layers on and off on those.
I may have lost seeing your screen, Joanna.
Okay.
That's okay.
Just a second ago, or?
Yeah, just a
okay.
second.
I wonder how.
Well, we can
I'm
certainly.
still here, though.
That's interesting. I don't know if anybody else lost the screen share as well, but I do have just about a minute left until it's noon, which is when you scheduled this to end. So again, we apologize for some of those technical difficulties. We will certainly send out the recording of the presentation. I can see your screen again, by the way. These just came back for me. And so I don't know if that was an issue on my end or if that was going on with everybody.
It went away. I maybe I accidentally clicked stop share when I was clicking on those tabs.
Okay.
Because it's like right at the top with everything.
Okay.
So
I think at this time, maybe we can just see if anybody has any questions before we end for today. And we certainly hope that this was useful information for you and that you're more familiar with the websites that we have to offer and the services that we provide. Any questions at this time?
Yeah, and I am sorry that I got disconnected. That was a little bad timing on that.
Not your fault. It happens with technology, right? You gotta love it. So.
And again, if anybody has questions and follow up, I can glad to follow up with you. Or
then, we do have the CFM credits, correct, that we're offering?
Yes, I have the certificates ready to go as soon as we confirm like attendance versus those who signed up.
Okay, so we can also send those out sometime after the meeting today. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing some thank yous in the chat box, and again, thanks everybody for your time. And if there's no questions, then I think we can end for today. But if you do have any questions, just let us know.